Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. There are no polling questions or attendance checks. Instead, you will demonstrate your knowledge by taking a brief multiple-choice quiz using the Earmark app. Visit earmark.app in your web browser. You can also download the mobile app by scanning the QR code on the screen. Log in, or if you're new, create your free account. Be sure to use a valid email address because that's where we'll send your course completion certificates. From the home screen, scroll down to find the course. You can also tap the magnifying glass icon to search for the course. Tap on the course artwork, then the Enroll button. On the Course tab, you'll find the recording and quiz questions. Complete the quiz to earn your CPE certificate. It takes us a few days to create the course on the app, so if you are attending this session live, please wait a few days. We'll email you a link to the course when it is ready. If you have questions or need help, email us at support@earmarkcpe.com. And now, on to the event.
Welcome to another Workshop Wednesday, where it's all about casual conversations for serious workflows, brought to you by schoolofbookkeeping.com, which allows you to learn QuickBooks your way, whether it's do it yourself or do it with you or do it for you. We have those three options available for learning QuickBooks however you want to see, however you see fit. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. So, today we're going to be talking about some cool things that we've done here at School of Bookkeeping to help with the whole conversion from desktop to online, and we're going to talk about a specific option or workflow that up until this weekend I did not know existed.
Surprise! You found out some surprises.
Yeah.
Big ones.
So let's first talk about the resource, because I was so excited about creating this. I was actually working on it on Father's Day.
Goodness.
My wife was like, "It's Father's Day. Why are you sitting there in Excel?" Because I want to make this.
Well, sometimes you just have to get it out of your mind. You've got to get it out on paper and have it be done.
Exactly. So let me share my screen here real quick here, because I have too many things being shared. Let's see here. Okay, so we have on the School of Bookkeeping website, we have a landing page here called QuickBooks Conversion, and I'm going to put the QR code here up in the upper corner. So if you want to take a look at this, you can click on that, and I'll also put it in the comments here. Stalling for time. There we go. So we have this resource here. There's a little video of us talking about the data conversion guide, which is, on this page here. Whoops. Oh my goodness. I can't scroll down. So you can go down here and chat with the chatbot here and just kind of go through your workflow, or just what you're trying to convert to QuickBooks, and it will kind of guide you through the ideal process, right? So that's up here at the top. We're talking about converting to QuickBooks Online in general, just because that's kind of the hand we're being dealt with.
Yeah, I have a lot of people coming to me with the need to convert, and I'm sure you do too. But Well, you know more than me the specifics, but my understanding is they are no longer selling new instances of Desktop Pro and Premiere.
Yeah. So as of last September, anybody in Pro and Premiere, if you're currently in a subscription, you can keep it. I kind of feel like Obama, like if you like your doctor, you can keep it. If you like your Pro or your Premiere, you can keep it until that's not an option anymore. But
Right.
you can keep your Pro Premiere subscription until you don't want it anymore. The challenge is that every year they're increasing the cost of said subscription.
Right.
To kind of force that conversation to be had.
So
right?
It's becoming more prohibitive to
Yeah.
continue paying the cost of it. And what about the support? I don't think they're going to be giving tech support for it also, right?
As long as you have a subscription, you will be able to access support for it. Now, there's this difference in general where it's called service discontinuation versus product discontinuation, or no longer being a supported product anymore. So service discontinuation is every May 31st. So we just had an anniversary date of service discontinuation, which has to deal with their policy of basically deprecating older versions of QuickBooks with regards to services, right? So this year, QuickBooks 2022 was the service discontinuation product. Now, anybody from 2022 till present is on a subscription, right? So when you're on a subscription, you get 2023 and 2024. And if they would have made it 2025, they would automatically give you that version.
Gotcha.
You still have to download and install it, but some people just purchase a subscription, stayed on 2022, and never upgraded.
Or earlier, which sometimes I run into.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny.
So 2022 on May 31st stopped working, and that doesn't mean it didn't open. It just means the services that were connected to it, like support, like updates, like payroll, online banking, those services stopped working in that version of QuickBooks.
Gotcha.
They still could open it. They could
Right.
still do all the things that they needed to do in the product. They just couldn't do those services if it involved an internet connection.
Right. And I've come across a lot of folks that they've been using an older version and they never did upgrade it.
Not broke, don't fix it.
For their tasks that they needed to do, it worked for them then. I seem to be getting a lot of inquiry lately though about folks that are really wanting to switch from desktop to QBO, and they also need my services and support too, but they just want to completely convert before they transition to me. And so mostly it's because of accessibility, not even necessarily cost, but they're really wanting to be cloud-based. And just for the simple reason that all of my clients, they have something in common. They just want to be able to access it from wherever they are. They have a more flexible life now. They're living in different places. They're traveling around. They're living out of an RV, and so it's just the way that our life has changed to a lot of different people. They want to be able to access their information remotely, and it's just a thing. It's a new way of living.
Right. And we have a blog article here on School of Bookkeeping that's down at the bottom of this page. Is it time to switch? Right, where it's just kind of weighing all the options, right? Do I stay put, or do I go up to Enterprise, or do I go to QuickBooks Online? And your point of what you were just making, I think that is the biggest selling point of QuickBooks Online, is the anywhere, anytime access, assuming Amazon Web Services doesn't go down like it did last week. Because if you don't have internet or if the internet is having a worldwide glitch, right? You don't have access to your QuickBooks. Unlike desktop, where you have to download something, you have to install something, you have to create a file for something, and you have to store that somewhere. And then if you're using multiple people to access it, you have to have a network and all of those infrastructure things, where QuickBooks Online just removes all of that out of the equation. If you can get to the internet and type in a password, you're in, right? I mean, and you're in from anywhere, right? You can be in from a mobile device, you can be in on an iPad, you could be in on a Chromebook, Mac versus PC, right? All of those infrastructure requirements are just out the window, right?
Yeah, and then also
one
additional thing, which is one of my personal favorites, is if you're into tech and apps and other things that sync with QuickBooks Online, you've now opened up all kinds of different possibilities with automation and things like that. So, and again, it's not necessarily just, oh, automation, I just want robots to do the work for me. No. We're talking all kinds of different things that you can do now and do the work in other places and then sync it into QuickBooks Online. So it's really quite advanced, and it's the way I've moved into cloud accounting for sure.
Yeah, and it's so I mean those are the fundamental differences. I mean, the biggest fundamental difference between the software purchasing is, you're purchasing a software license with desktop, and as long as you have the hard drive space to hold company files, you can create as many company files as you like. Whereas QuickBooks Online, every entity represents its own subscription, so weigh that as far as the cost comparison, right? But here on the conversion page, we have, again, you can do this your way. You can do it yourself. We have courses to talk about, how do you move your desktop data to QuickBooks Online. We have a do it with you option, which is, setting up a what we call a one-on-one private tutoring, going with the school aspect of School of Bookkeeping, where you can have us be there with you to guide you through the process, and to more importantly, be there if something goes wrong while you're trying to do this thing. Or we have a do it with you or do it for you option, where it is, here's my file, just do it. I don't want to be concerned with this at all, right? Like if you don't have access to the desktop, for example, that makes it a little bit more challenging to do a desktop conversion, right? But one of the resources, what I had noticed up until this weekend, the resources that were out there, Intuit makes a really nice article, and I've shared it several times on the workshop, where you can go in and you can see what the terminology differences between desktop and online, what the preference differences are between desktop and online, and what are the transaction differences between desktop and online, and how those things actually convert. The problem is that article is so monstrous. It's so large.
They also changed the terminology pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
Who knows how current it is?
Exactly. The problem is that if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to find the answer, right?
Right.
Because there is some jargon, some terminology in there that might make it a little bit more challenging. So I have been probably starting near the middle of the end of last year, I was looking to work with a developer, right, to be able to create a utility that would allow people to analyze their QuickBooks data and spit out a report that would say, here's the things that you really need to take care of.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Before you move to QuickBooks Online, because you've got multiple shipping addresses, right?
Right.
And, that's not going to go over exactly the way that you had anticipated it to go over, because QuickBooks Online doesn't support multiple shipping addresses for your customers.
Right.
You can have 10,000 shipping addresses for one customer, And if you convert that to QuickBooks Online, you're going to get one shipping address for that customer. And it would be good to know that before you you convert your data, right?
Right.
Because then you can kind of come up with a game plan, right?
You can make some
Well,
decisions.
exactly. Or at least have a conversation about how this is going to work out and what do I need to do about it, right? Well, trying to find a developer who really understood what what it is I was trying to do and what I ultimately wanted to have happen was a mixed experience. So at best, right? Um, some people were really excited about it, and then when it got to figuring out the cost of some that sort of thing, it was just cost prohibitive for me to to go down that
Yeah.
route.
And who knows if they have the openness that something like QuickBooks Online has, that you can go in and connect to it, right? That's
Yeah.
something I wouldn't know about desktop.
Yeah, they promised the world, but then when the rubber hits the road, like a lot of them thought that I was talking about converting data, right? I'm like, no, QuickBooks does a really good job of converting it from desktop to online. I don't need that.
Yeah.
I need to be able to have a conversation with a prospective converter, right? That would say, okay, you're using inventory. Are you really using inventory, or did you abandon that 5 years ago? Which very well could be, the conversation that comes up. It's like, well, that's a non-issue. Okay, let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah, because the only way that you can do that is just manually. You go through, each thing one by one and see what's being used, when was the last time this was used, how many of these, it's a very manual process.
Because it's not scalable, because it takes it takes several hours to comb through somebody's company file to see if they're even using this. So my practice was, hey, I don't know anything about your data. Let's put it up into a trial version, and then I'll invite you to that. And then it's now your burden to see if you're to come up with that wish list of things that you want to have done, right? So what happens inevitably is they don't do that.
Right. I was just going to say, well, they might not necessarily know what they're looking at or what to look for.
Exactly.
It's like at first glance, yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, because they'll see their historical financial reports are accurate. They'll see that their customers are all there. They'll see that their vendors are all there, and their bills and invoices and payments and bank deposits and reconciliations are there, right? And then they'll go, okay, everything looks good. And then months later, hey, what happened to these multiple shipping addresses? Or, hey, why can't I enter in a historical transaction on inventory?
Yeah, right? Or should these be non-inventory items or things like that? Yeah, things that they wouldn't necessarily know to look for.
So there's not really a conversion decoder ring, and that's what I was trying to develop here, and that's what I've put on the conversion page. Is and this is still a living document, so it likely will get some updates. But what I have here is the feature or workflow and it's embedded on the website, so you can just go to the website and check it out. The feature or workflow, whether it's available in QuickBooks Desktop or not, and if there is a specific notation about that, I'll put that in here, like customers. Yes, you can have customers in QuickBooks Desktop. 10,500 is a limit in Pro and Premier. No limit in QuickBooks Enterprise. There's no limit in QuickBooks Online, right? So if you have more than, if you have 11,000 customers on your customer list and you're in Enterprise, yes, that should tell you that all of those customers will make the journey over to QuickBooks Online. And then there's a column for, what to expect. if there's any kind of pro tip, little tidbit of information that you want to know or that you should know about that, I'll put that in there. And then this most important column, I think, of the spreadsheet is, does it convert? Right? Does it convert to QBO, and what converts, right? So for customers, the note here, your jobs become sub-customers unless you're converting to Plus or Advance, and then C, job costing in this list. But then here's the fields that come across. So customer name, the company name, Mr. or Mrs., all of these fields will convert. So if you see that there's not a field on here that's in your customer history or customer field, then okay, that's not going to come over, right? So one of the things that's missing here is account numbers, right? So if you're using the field in QuickBooks Online or Desktop that is account numbers, you're using it for a specific reason, it's not going to come over to QuickBooks Online. So now there's a conversation that needs to be had of how, what am I going to use in its place, because it doesn't come over. Do I use another number, another field, or something like that? Or maybe I need a custom field. If I need a custom field, then I need QuickBooks Online Advanced in order to do that, right? Because I can't create a custom field for a customer unless I have QuickBooks Online Advanced. So this is now part of the conversation ahead of time of setting yourself up for success, right? And so that's what I've done here. And then there's also, if there is some more resources, like if I have a blog article about it, or maybe a lesson inside of School of Bookkeeping, I'll put that as a link in here as well.
Wow, right. This is an incredible resource.
Thank you. So I've broken it up into sections, and it's filterable. So you can click on the filter here and filter for something that is concerning to you, right? Like, so what would you want to know, Rachel, about how something converts from desktop to online?
Okay. I would like to know if I have accounts and sub-accounts, will the sub-accounts come over intact?
Right. So the chart of accounts, which now that you've pointed something, well, if I do just accounts, so let's just say accounts, right? This gives all of the options that talk about or have that in the word. So there's my chart of accounts. Let's see, how do I unselect all of them? There we go. So then if I wanted to see just the chart of accounts, now it's only showing just those one thing. But you've made it an interesting point. I don't have this on. I don't have the answer on here, so I need to add that. But the short answer is yes. Your hierarchy will come across. Right?
So you don't have to. And the reason I ask that is because in QuickBooks Online, you can't inactivate an account and make it dormant if it's a sub account of something else.
Right.
You have to unmatch it to the child from the parent, and otherwise you can't. Otherwise it's stuck. So I was just wondering if if there's an issue with I can't maybe make a change if something is a parent and a child, or if it's nested under a parent. Can something like that come over and remain intact from QuickBooks?
Yeah.
QuickBooks
Yeah.
Desktop?
So I do have a section in here on inactive. So I just searched for inactive, and then there are two things that deal with inactive list elements or inactive inventory items, right? So with inactive list items, they're both supported in both platforms. This little note in here about inactive list items about QuickBooks Online. Merging list items in QuickBooks Online does not delete the unused list, where like it does in QuickBooks Desktop. When you do merge two into one, you're left on your list with only one, but you still have an inactive list item inside of QuickBooks Online. But when it converts, inactive accounts, customers, or vendors do convert.
Oh,
right?
Cool.
If they have an open balance,
retrieve them if you need.
Right. Here's the catch of all this. QuickBooks Desktop allows you to inactivate an item, customer, account if it has a balance, right? QuickBooks Online does not.
You can't.
Right? So that's the note here. If they have an open balance, they become active, right?
Okay.
Because it cannot make them it cannot re-inactivate them if there's a balance on it, right? Because you have to decide what you do with that balance in order for it to zero it out. So that is the caveat, to all of that, which if you were looking at the Intuit article, you'd be hard pressed to find out this exact information for inactive list items, because it's scattered, at best, because there's just so much information there.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what this is all about. So I'm going to tee up our actual topic today about attachments. Right. So we're going to look at attachments. So document attachments, and what this is when you have a list element or transaction, you can attach pictures or documents to that list item or transaction that go along with that. So, things like blueprints or, handwritten notes, work papers. What have you seen have been other
links?
Reason?
Do you think a link would come, like a link to a Google Sheet?
Links do not, right? Because we'll talk about the specifics, but you can't attach a link to a transaction.
Oh, right. Okay, it wouldn't technically be an attachment. Yeah, just be a. Yeah,
you can put a link inside of a text field, right? And that will certainly transfer over. But a lot of businesses will have disclaimers, things like that they want to attach to either their customer, something like an ACH form, right? Like where they've got something that is attached, W-9s, for vendors, all of those things,
which is so important. And that's something that's come up with me and needing to be able to convert those W-9 attachments. That's a big deal.
So for a long time, people would ask the question, do my attachments convert? And my answer was no, they do not. They never did. So as I was doing this spreadsheet, I was looking at that monstrous Intuit article and noticed the answer was not no. It said yes. And then there was a link to an article about, what can be converted, how it converts. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a huge thing.
That's a big deal. How did you miss that?
Right. Well, it went through with little fanfare, right? It was not in the know. It was not in, there was no updated. So somebody worked really hard at this.
Yeah.
and didn't tell the community. So here I am.
Yeah, because this could be a deal breaker. Somebody might not want to convert just because of this.
Right. Because in the past, right, the workaround, the solution is you still have access to them through your QuickBooks Desktop. You still can access read-only data after you cancel your subscription. So that was the solution. Is you
go dig it up there if you needed it.
You'll have a digital filing cabinet, so to speak, for those attachments, but you got to go through Desktop. So either you maintain an active subscription, just so that you can open it and access it, or you have it read only, and hopefully time will take care of the historical ones that you need to work with. So now it's available, and there's some caveats here. So yes, it's available to do, but QuickBooks Desktop and the attachments need to be stored locally, right? And so this now brings up another conversation of, where are your attachments, right? So let's head on over to desktop here. Gonna close this off and go over here. Okay, so this is looking at QuickBooks Desktop. I just have a company file that has 3 documents. This is the document center is what we're looking at here. So we have a document, so a Word doc, a PDF, and an Excel spreadsheet. I just wanted to use a selection of different types of documents that people could have. They're attached to. It's got this little column attached to. This is attached to a vendor. This one is attached to a customer, and this one is attached to a sales receipt. So again, another selection of different types of things that you can attach things to. So in QuickBooks Desktop, this is the uniqueness of, if I can hover over this right, where documents are actually stored in QuickBooks Desktop is wherever the company file happens to be located. There is a folder called Attach, and that's saved wherever the company file happens to be located. So if they're in a network environment, or if they're in a cloud hosted environment, that company file is going to be stored in some mapped network drive or on their server, right? Which means that their documents are going to be stored on their server, right? So in order for this to convert properly, going back to the resource, your company file and your documents need to be local, meaning the C drive of the computer.
Okay. They need to be moved to not external, but on that computer.
Right.
Okay.
Which makes it very complicated, a little bit more complicated for someone like me who would be available to be able to do the conversion for them. Like people send me a backup or a portable file. Those backups and portable files do not include the attachments. Right. So now this is extra.
Well, how would they do that? Would they, like, if they sent you that, like, let's say on a through like a Google Drive or something, would there have to be a folder with all of the attachments that they just like copied and pasted into that?
Right. So inside the attached folder is the name of the company file, right? So every company file that's stored on that machine will have a folder within the attached folder. And inside of that is the inbox, which is the document center, lists, and transactions folder. Right?
Okay.
So all they would essentially need to do is zip or compress the company file folder and send that along with their backup file, and then I can take care of the rest, right? The other option is if they're doing it themselves, you just need to copy this attach folder to wherever the company file is, right? So here in this particular case, I press F2 here, or yes, there it is. Here in the middle, you may need to break out your binoculars or magnifying glass. In the middle, it talks about the file information, and then there's a location, right? And this is the default location of where QuickBooks Desktop is in the public documents folder on the C drive, right? So as long as I have my attached folder in the same location as this company file, that's all I need to. That's all I need to know, right? Or that's all that's necessary. So before the workshop, I didn't want to wait for the conversion to complete. So I did the conversion of this file with these 3 attachments. And if where are you? Oh, of course it's signed out while I was waiting here. So let me sign back in. And no codes. Now I need my codes again. Where is my? Here it is. 4, 1, is what I tried to do ahead of time so that I didn't have to do this during the workshop, but here we are. All right, so we're logging in, and we'll go to the attachments trial. There it is. So it's the same company that I just did a conversion into a trial, and it just restarted my computer. Excellent.
Oh no.
Wow. Well, imagine
we'll
if you
just
will.
take your word for it. We'll take your word for it. But that is very cool. I mean, honestly, like, because I've had conversations with people where they're like, well, we're just not going to go ahead and go to QBO right now because we really need these attachments.
Exactly.
So this is a total game changer.
There goes restarting. Okay.
That's okay. Well, we'll take your word for it. We believe you.
So yeah, I mean, you go in, you can go into the attachments folder, and it's well, actually, since it's in online, I can do it over here, but I got to just sign in again, which I will do really quick because I want to show it to you. All right, so here we are again, signing in. Go to the attachments. I knew I should have used my Surface and not this darn computer that's subject to restarting. But if I go to the attachments from the gear menu and attachments, there they are, right?
Yay!
Those attachments got moved over. I didn't have to download them, reattach them. And
that's incredible.
And they're attached to the document, right? So
to the right thing. Yeah.
Here's that sales receipt, and there's the attachment, right?
Oh my goodness. This is such a game changer.
So this one was attached. The weird thing that I noticed here is that it doesn't show the customer or vendor that it's attached to here in the attachment center. But if I do go to that first customer or vendor, which I tried to use the first one on the list. Well, there's only one customer. This is a liquor store. Sometimes it needs drives you to drink, so they're a useful customer to have around. Let's see. Okay, so if I go and edit the customer, and I scroll down,
there it is.
There's the attachment, the Wells Fargo accounts there.
Yay.
So it's already attached. You don't have to. Now, I don't know if you have a lot of attachments, how long this takes. I was looking at the article. Let me just pull that up really quickly. This is that monster article I was talking about. Let's see, attachments here. Okay, so the requirements here, only attachments that are 30 megabytes or smaller will be moved, right? So if you've attached a video file, that may not move. Attachments must be stored on the computer's local hard drive, but if they're stored on a server, you can manually upload them to QuickBooks Online or move that. You know, there's ways around that.
Okay.
And then this note here about backup files don't contain attachments. If you're using a backup file for migration, they won't be included. And then these are the supported attachment types. So there's your CSVs, your Word docs, GIFs. I don't know that people actually use GIFs as attachments, but I guess they work. Pictures, JPEGs, PDFs, PNGs, TIFFs, Excels, and XML files. And then supported entities for attachment migration. So here's all the things that should get attachments attached to them: bills, checks, company, credit card charges, credit memos, customers, deposits. So pretty much everything that you can attach something to inside of QuickBooks Desktop, you can attach to inside of QuickBooks Online. And as long as it's in this list here, and you've attached something to it, it should remain attached when it moves over. Now I know this was, in the past, this was either, sorry, this is not going to work, or working with a company to manually move those attachments over, which could cost, in excess of, several $1,000s to
Well, yeah,
move
because
those over.
it just takes forever.
Yeah, because it's complicated, and there's ways to do it. It's just a lot of stuff that's above probably both of our pay grades when it
Yeah.
comes to development of such applications. So those people that have spent all that time, unfortunately, now are out of.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're in another place. Well, now they're in the okay. Well, if QuickBooks will move it for us, then let's do it the QuickBooks way. But then there's some caveats to that too, right? Like if they've done this, they've done the conversion already, and now they want to do this again. This is now another part of the conversation of,
Yeah.
okay, if you do this again, you're going to overwrite all that data
Don't
that's
I know
in
it?
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those companies that can move attachments can typically move attachments without migrating data all over again. So that still may be a viable alternative if you're past the point of redoing this from QuickBooks Desktop directly.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is such good news.
Yes. So you can always go to the spreadsheet there on the conversion page and check that out. Please give us feedback. There's a little book spot in there if you need to reach out to us, like, hey, I really wanted to know about my sub account hierarchy. Put that in there. You can leave feedback and those types of things. So that is the news for today. And so next week and the week after, we're going to take a little hiatus.
Yes.
Next week is Scaling New Heights. So you must be pretty stoked about seeing your accounting friends and family,
that's
right?
where I'm going to be. I will be at Scaling New Heights, and I'm excited. I have all of my sessions picked in my app. I'm ready to go.
All right. And I'll miss seeing you, and I'll have serious FOMO next week. But we got some personal things to take care of, and so we'll see you all in a couple weeks. Well, actually 3 weeks from now for our next workshop Wednesday, and hope you all have a great day and stay out of trouble. Where's the outro video? There it is. Okay. Have a great day, everyone.